Give me some music, baby.
Yeah. How's that?
Like that.
All
Very
right.
Anthony.
Yes.
Very
oh,
Anthony.
Yes.
Okay, I picture you playing that.
Right. Okay. Well, listen, Jessica has joined us. I'm not going to say that you're the third wheel
But you are.
to this, but you are going to be a very integral part of everything that goes on here. But you're not the last word in what goes on here too, because there is someone missing from the room who will be spending some time in here on the mic. She is in real estate school. That's my wife, Allison. She is going to try and parlay some of her love of looking at homes online constantly into maybe selling a few homes online,
And pay for a
which
new
would
one.
be really, really nice. So we're back here in the PewJitsu podcast studio at Tradecraft Range. Mike sitting across from me. Mike is taking some deep breaths and trying to gather his chi. He's been...
You know what, Jesus reminds me of a quote about Jesus. He said, I want to live in a world where electronics do what they're supposed to do.
He did say that.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
somewhere.
That
Yeah,
was in,
he did.
the book of Michael, chapter 2.
Mm-hmm. I like that, the book of Michael. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to side rail it.
He's been working his ass off since we got here, literally between setting up lights, cameras, trying to dial in some audio, and we are a pretty ambitious bunch in that we're not just going to go with like, hey, let's just connect a couple mics and do a simple podcast recorded right into a laptop and throw it out. We're recording with multiple cameras. We got multiple microphones. We have 3 lights, and we're really being quite ambitious with this. So a few growing pains are to be expected, and I don't. I'm sure nobody will blame us or give us any crap about trying to put out a really, really high quality product, and that's exactly what we're after.
We're getting there. So if you're watching this on the video portion of it, not just audio, that we actually had a step left on what our original plan was, and this is Plan C, and hopefully it works out okay.
I think it's Plan Q.
Yeah, Plan Q. Got any topics today, man? What'd you have on your mind?
Jessica's the topic of the day.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
Oh,
No
man.
pressure.
Because we talked a little bit about her and about you guys before, but this is our time to introduce her and then like playing around. Like Texas said, she's the yin to your yang. She's the salt to your pepper, whatever it is that we want to say. But she is what sort of completes you guys in some way, professionally and personally. So yeah, let's get some people knowing a little bit about Miss Jess here, and what she brings to you, Mike, what she brings to Evoke Studio, what she brings to the gun channel, what she's going to bring to this particular passion project of ours, and yeah, I think that's a great place to start, and then we'll take it wherever it goes. We'll talk about her tattoos, or which she's covered in.
I like it.
She looks like you just got out of a hard time at
I
Pelican
know.
Bay.
I'm out of Pelican Bay.
So if you can see Miss Jess here on our camera, you see this pixie haircut with cool glasses, and you may see some ink on her arms, and I think it's absolutely a perfect representation of who Jessica is personally. She's just a super sweet but fiercely intelligent person that I've enjoyed getting to know, both professionally and personally. We've had plenty of opportunities to do photo shoots and video work together with you guys for our skirmishes. You did our family photo shoot when our son Justice was home from his first deployment to Saudi Arabia, and then on the personal side of things, we spent a lot of time together. We've hung out. We've went and had some sushi. We've spent some nights together, not together, but we've been out here together as families here on the property. And so I think I want to turn the mic over to you for just a little bit.
Okay.
Jessica, tell us about you.
What about me? Where should I start?
Start where you are right now and work backwards.
Oh, man. So, so right now we're running this awesome little studio, and Michael and I started working together a few years back when we each had our own kind of projects and businesses going, and so I was really into portraits at that point when I met Michael, and so he he wanted a partner to work on a couple different things that you just can't do on your own. And so initially I said no. It's like I don't do video, so I don't know why you're asking me to do video. It's like, but you could learn.
Yeah.
And so so right now I'm on that journey of kind of continuing to expand, and Michael is an excellent teacher and encourager, just always somebody who's pushing people to go beyond where they think they can go.
How does a portrait photographer find a photographer slash videographer slash musician? Like what circles slash
Instagram.
martial artist slash
Where everybody meets on Instagram.
So is that where it happened? So he like
Yeah.
stumbled upon your portfolio and it's like, oh, this lady has it together. I want to collaborate.
Yeah, so he had been looking for someone to. The first thing he asked me about was, I need somebody to film some behind the scenes stuff for me because I want to get some material that I can use to help promote my business. And you have a good eye. I like your style, and it should work really well. So he reached out for that, and I said, no, I don't do video. Like, but you can.
Yeah, and the biggest thing was like anybody can learn math and learn how a piece of equipment works and learn skill. But what I find that you can't really teach, and what I saw within Jessica, was the eye for photography, for things that look cool and feel cool as far as photography goes. And then photography really is just cinematography or video. So I was reaching out for her qualities as a talented artist, as a great quote unquote eye for photography, and because videos, anybody can learn that if you have the eye.
Is that an inherent quality or trait in photographers and videographers, the knack for them to be able to look at a room or a scene or a group of people and understand, or at least have a feel for the aesthetics of it? Or can you take a school, or can you be taught to see it more easily, or is that something that just is better suited for just hardwired in?
I don't think it's a pure thing. I think you can get better at it. But I think you have to have something intrinsically within you to be able to look at a room and just know that the rule of thirds is the rule of thirds without even knowing what it's called.
Right, that this is going to be more aesthetically so for those who maybe these days everybody's a photographer, right? But there are some hard and fast photography rules that or at least guidelines that make things look better. And the rule of thirds is if you break down whatever it is that you're looking at, whether it be your iPhone screen or the viewfinder in your phone, break it down into a grid, 9 boxes, 3 by 3, and the theory of the rule of thirds, right, is that anywhere that there's an intersection of those boxes, if you'll put your subject at that point, it makes a more aesthetically pleasing photograph or video. So yes, people do know rule of thirds, but it goes way, way beyond it.
Yeah, the golden ratio and all of the things that go into, it's not like you just put a person there and then that's it. There's lots of other things that go into leading your eye to that person to make it really visually pleasing. And I think that some people might know that it looks good and they don't know why. Others have literally no idea.
And you go like 4D chess too, where you can get rule of thirds and depth of field, to where you can have the subject in the center, for example, or centering, and then have something in the front sort of blurred out, and then something behind them. So you have layers. So instead of going 2-dimensional, you can go 3-dimensional. But to go back to that, and I'll chime in regards to, is it learned or is it just something you have? I think it's a little bit of both. I reverse engineered it for myself. I'll speak for what I did. Reverse engineered, I look at a photo and go, wow, I love this photo, and I ask why. Why do I like this photo more than the other one? And then there was definitely an intuitive feeling of, like, when I got behind the camera, I would move the camera around and say, oh, this is pleasing, I would take the photo. And then that got me started, and then I would understand why, because of the math. And then from there, the math would sort of guide me a little bit down the path, and then I would go make a lot of errors and mistakes and just get it done. And so it's sort of a combination. So I don't think anybody should say, I'm not a photographer because I don't have the eye. I think that's a cop-out.
You can learn.
You can definitely learn. If you love it, you can get to excellent places, even if you don't, in anything in life, I suppose. If you don't have necessarily a startup talent at that particular thing, you could work hard and overcome stuff and then actually be better than other people that quote unquote have talent.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, if the photos that you're taking are for your own personal enjoyment, then beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and don't get wrapped around the axle trying to be Ansel Adams. Just take a picture that makes you happy and move on. So, I digress. So you found in her someone with an eye that appealed to you.
And he thought I was a dude.
What?
Yeah. Because on Instagram, she was just posting her work, and I never actually saw her, right? And so,
and the name of my business didn't have my name in it.
Right.
So he's like, drops into your DMs like, hey, bro, I'd like to work with you.
Yeah, so when we meet up, I walk in.
maybe all the pronouns would have been helpful at that point. We weren't using them at the time.
Yeah, right.
When we met at a coffee shop and walk in, and I recognized him because he posts a picture of himself on his business page, and so.
Does he have a shirt on?
Yes.
2 shirts on today, my friends. 2.
So I walk in and I introduce myself, and he kind of looks at me like, "Why is this chick saying hello to me?" I'm like,
This never
"I'm Jessica."
happens.
I actually brought my daughters up with me. We met at a coffee shop, and I had my 2 girls with me, and they were probably 15 and 16 at the time. And she walks in. I'm like, "Oh shit, it's a girl!" And it's cool. Oh, hey, hi, it's good to meet you. And then she went to the counter or something, and I went over to my daughters, and I go, "I thought that was a dude." So obviously, it didn't
I do have
matter.
a pixie cut, but come on.
So that's just fun, one of the early stories that we joke about and have fun about. But yeah, to answer your question, we met on Instagram, and we met at a coffee shop and got to know each other a little bit better. Nice, safe place for anybody to meet, like for a late breakfast, 11, 12 o'clock, grab lunch.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's safe no matter what.
So you agree on the collaboration at some point?
Yep.
All right, so keep rewinding us back.
Yeah, so at that point, I was very part-time in photography. I was still in the heart of my first career, which is probably surprising to some people, but I was a youth minister for 20 years, and so I have a master's degree in theology, and so I was...
Any particular denomination in that ministry?
Evangelical Lutheran Church
Okay.
in America, so it's a pretty huge denomination around the world as well.
It's got to be one of the top 2, 3?
It's pretty big, yeah.
Okay.
So
Bigger than a baby's arm?
Naturally.
obviously.
Hobby.
So I, having been in the ministry for that long, and I really enjoyed doing it, and I don't mean to, float my own boat, but I was really good at it, but I was also very burnt out. So that kind of work can be exhausting when you're all in all the time. And so photography was an outlet for me to be able to use this creative part of my brain that had always been there. I initially wanted to go to art school, and my mom was quite unsupportive of that. And so I went a different direction, but I graduated with a minor in art, but didn't pursue it professionally.
So as a youth minister for how long?
20 years.
20 years. And you're becoming burnout. Is there not a support group, a support network that's available, or is it just
definitely?
Is it not capable?
It's tough. There's actually as part of my denomination, they really encourage you to take a sabbatical every few years, but typically it's tough to get a congregation to be able to support you to do that financially,
right?
Because then they have to hire someone else, support you while
to
you're
hold
on
your
sabbatical.
job down.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it's a tough thing, but they do really encourage that to avoid burnout. It's something they have very much on the radar.
Yeah, I can imagine. You're counseling and dealing with so much.
And ministry has changed a lot in the last 10 years.
Oh, man.
Kids have changed a lot in the last 10 years. So.
Yeah, well, there's a lot more, vying for the attention of youth, interfering with their attention spans in the way of phones and video and YouTube, podcasts, of course. So I can imagine that the job gets more and more difficult and probably has to be reinvented every decade or so.
It's completely different from when I first graduated from seminary. Completely different.
So.
And I will say, go back to the photography path. That's where she had all these lovely students, sort of in the high school range as well. And she had a passion and love for photography, and she started giving her students free senior portrait sessions. Yeah. And that's how she cut her teeth in photography, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you got a lot of reps for sure.
A lot
of reps doing that, and that's basically what it comes down to is a lot of repetition, paying attention to the inputs and the outputs, and go from there. So as growing up, were you artistic? Did you get into any other forms or meet?
Oh yeah, my minor in college is at pottery, so I have a minor in pot.
Awesome.
Uri. So.
And have you thrown any clay lately?
Not since college, actually. No, that's not true. I did get to throw a couple times when I was in seminary for different projects that I was working on.
Yeah, that's cool. My daughter Emma takes pottery in high school, and she absolutely loves it. She loves the process. She comes home and shows us the photos of this pot that she's making, or a cup, or whatever it happens to be. And yeah, she's really into it. We've actually been encouraging our youngest daughter Riley to do the same thing when she gets there. Just great way to use your hands, and you end up with a product afterwards, and that's pretty rewarding.
Especially when you're throwing on the wheel, it's your whole body is involved in that process, and your mind. So I love how.
If I could cue up the Righteous Brothers right now, I so would.
Oh Lord.
Okay, so
you know how many times I've been asked that?
we're in college now, and you're working towards your master's degree in theology. You're a minor in art. You're getting into photography at that point.
I've always been into photography. I got a gift in high school of a small little point and shoot, and I wore that sucker out. But I think, like many of us, when we have kids, we start taking a lot of pictures.
Yep.
And then I just became really obsessed with taking better pictures.
Yeah.
And better pictures. And a friend of mine was a pro and handed me his old DSLR, and I was like, you can do that.
Right.
He had a prime lens on it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Had it set up for me for aperture priority, and let me go to town, let me keep it for a week.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? It had you could do your view your photo on the back. The first time you take a photo with a professional quality DSLR with a great lens, maybe something pretty fast, and you go, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I still have
amazing.
that picture of my son, that first picture I took with that, and it's one of my favorite photos ever.
Yeah, really neat. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in northeastern Wisconsin, just outside of Green Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, don't you know?
Oh, yeah.
If I go home or if I talk to my sister on the phone, all the O's come out.
Oh, yeah.
And your family's lineage is Scandinavia?
Yeah, my dad was 100%, well, whatever 100% is, Norwegian.
Days, yeah.
And my mom was all German, so yep.
Quite a mix.
Nice stocky roots.
Yeah, probably a Viking in there somewhere.
Actually, we did our lineage once, and we have roots back to Norway that are like part of the royal heritage. So
awesome.
I'm a Viking princess. That was appropriate.
There you go. It's just for you. I never thought I would use that button on here, but
I'm super impressed that you pulled it up, knew which pad to hit.
Bam.
And no hesitation. The confidence in you was like
totally pro.
It's like a bull that's getting like hormone shots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Testosterone shots.
Wow.
Wow. That's right. Well, Miss Jess, I love your photography. I think you guys have been just awesome, inspirational for sure. And from time to time, I do send photos that I've taken over to Mike and Jess via text. And I'm a little nervous sometimes because like you guys are professionals, I'm an amateur. I'm like, hey, look at this picture I took, waiting for. And I know that you guys will always say something nice about it because you're just that way. But
we don't have to say anything nice because your photos are good.
Yeah.
So you guys now make up Evoke Studio, and you're pretty much a fully operational photography, videography, and production company because you guys crank out stuff that goes broadcast quality, and it goes out onto regular media sources on television. But more than that, you are a couple.
Yes.
How is that working together as a couple, a romantic couple? How is that? I mean, you're going to have your arguments. You could have your disagreements over lighting or whatever, but how do you manage it?
I think the way it started out is helpful because we were friends at first.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Who made the first move?
Michael?
Nah, she stalked me.
Oh, please. Please. But I think it was good that we were a partnership before we were a personal partnership. So there was a little less of that kind of craziness.
Yeah, really close friends first, and she was married at the time when we met, and I was in a relationship, so neither of us were looking for that. We were clearly, pursuing the art of photography for the art of photography, not to meet people or to, you know what I mean, to socialize or to pick up chicks.
He thought it was a dude.
Photographyhookup.com.
Yeah.
Somebody's gonna make that now.
Shoot, grab that mic real quick.
So yeah, we had that. We got together, and then we just went into business together. We talked about a little bit in the first podcast or the last podcast, I think, and we just had a lot of fun. Started growing together and figuring each other out and how we worked together and why the synergy was there.
Yeah, you built that professional connection and respect first and foremost, and then,
I would say the friendship really.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then the professional part really stacked on top of the friendship, and just we liked each other. It was really cool. It was easy.
Yeah,
kind of like when we met. It was,
yeah,
it was really
absolutely.
Easy. Yeah.
You just put yourself out there, put your likes and your wants and your energy out there, and there are people who are going to gravitate towards it and grab on, and then there are people who just will float on by as if it didn't faze them, and it's not for them, and that's cool, and that's fine too. So Mike, you're a shooter. We've already talked about that, and people will have already associated you with the gun channel because they see your great videos on the gun channel, and but Jess is a shooter as well.
I feel weird saying that because I'm so new. It's like I have a gun and I can shoot it, but I don't know if I'm a shooter.
No, you're a shooter. No, if you can manipulate a weapon the way you can, and you can put rounds on target the way you can.
Actually, Chaim would probably be mad if he heard me say that.
With the confidence that you can, and there's a wonderful video out there showing you running a gun very well. Then yeah, you're a shooter, and I don't think shooter is a class of capabilities. It's a mindset too.
I really respect people that do it really well and are very capable and confident. I mean, just covering the skirmishes and the tactical games gives me a high level of respect for people who really, really train. And I know I'm not there yet, mostly because of ammo prices, but
Yeah, that's definitely a barrier to getting a lot of live fire activity right now for a lot of people, and we deal with it constantly here at the range. And I know that instructors are dealing with it too. They're having to change their course loads. They're having to drop round counts.
And maybe that's good because dry fire is a great way to train.
Absolutely. And they're even sometimes, and in some cases, scrapping live fire altogether for other forms of training that are a little less expensive.
Throwing bricks at each other?
Throwing bricks, just hurling insults. This is good enough. Fuck you.
That's just mean.
So we've got 2 Alpha Training Group is coming in. Kawa runs some insane classes all over the place.
Like airsoft and stuff? Or?
But yeah, he's actually doing a CQB Assaulter 1 course, 2-day.
And airsoft is they shoot little yellow plastic pellets with air.
Powered by air. His entire course, it's 2 days, is all going to be airsoft. So people that were like, man, I don't have the ammo to go to a 2-day course, they can come to a class like that, and the ammo price and the airsoft gun rental is baked right into the price.
Oh, it's a rental.
Oh, cool.
It's a rental.
To buy your
you don't
own
even
stuff.
have to buy it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So he's thinking ahead.
And who is that? Where can I dig into that more?
Yeah, you can go to 2alphatraininggroup.com, or we've got links through Force Center's Instagram page, through our link tree to register for that. It's coming up here in May. And Kawa will be here in studio with us with some of his instructors, and we'll sit down and we'll discuss current trends in training. We're going to talk a whole bunch.
And that translates pretty well, doesn't it? Training airsoft.
Yeah, absolutely. The recoil may be slightly different. When we're talking about a rifle-based platform, there's not a lot of recoil on a standard 5.56 anyway. There'll be obviously some sound differences because you're not going to get the same report. But I think the pros far outweigh the cons. So you're going to be able to work in a much more dynamic environment. Force on force becomes like a no-brainer, and then the cost to do that type of training goes way down.
An argument could be made of that your training isn't complete unless you're doing some sort of airsoft training, because you get moving live combatants and
Absolutely.
you get almost not live fire, but live fire on airsoft situational training.
Either airsoft or some sort of simunitions device.
Right.
There's a pain penalty that you pay for not seeking cover or concealment correctly. Leave a knee hanging out, and you get it lit up a few times. That pain penalty will teach you very quickly.
Yeah, that last skirmish, when we were covering that, I noticed, they were supposed to be getting their plates on behind cover. And a couple of them were like standing up. I'm like, dude, you would not be doing that if this were real.
Yeah, and that was one of the ideas for building that battle, and it was in the directions that they had to be donning that gear from behind cover. To create that mindset for them. Yeah,
that's
then you
real.
could take that experience, whether it be pain because of simunition, because it actually hurts, and then I'm sure airsoft doesn't feel great either, depending on the distance. But then when you go back to an open range where you are doing actual firearms training, think of concealment differently, and then when you're doing your drills, visualizing that experience, and then even multiply it. So, actually, can I cite off topic a little bit, sort of? Steel casings on ammo and the wear on gun, and it's like a never-ending conversation online. So I just bought like 1,000 rounds of steel case 9mm because for like $1 million. And
what's your address? I'll send everybody over.
Yeah, come on over. I'll give you some ammo. Steel casing, the damage or wear and tear on a firearm.
Now,
what are your thoughts?
From what we gather here, the malleability of the casing is quite different from brass to steel, and extractor wear is the primary concern. That you're going to wear your extractors out at a higher rate.
Would that be like after 100 rounds or 1,000 rounds or 10,000?
That's a great question, and I don't know if anybody's done a test on it.
Do a test on it.
Can I borrow your gun?
You'll sacrifice your firearm.
No, Joan is not for use.
Testing. I would imagine it's going to have quite a number of rounds put through it to really wear out the extractor. So for maybe if you just decided for cost saving reasons you're going to switch to all steel case ammo for a year, you may have some problems. If you have if you're a high volume shooter, you may have some problems. If it's just every so often, or hey, somebody gave me 100 rounds of Wolf steel case stuff, Russian stuff, I don't think it'll have a major effect, but it over the course of a long period of time, I bet you could.
Speaking of Joan, she named her firearm.
Yeah, you mentioned Joan.
Actually, if that's okay, I find it very fascinating. I think other people do too. Is her journey from being a non-weapon owner to having a house with her and her son in it, and then wanting to take responsibility for her own security, her son's security, and her home's, her property security, in the matrix of decision making, and her journey on that, which brought her into shooting, I guess, essentially.
Yeah, was the purpose of you buying your first you bought your first firearm at what age?
40.
So at 40, you became a gun owner, handgun.
And I think anybody who knew me before age 40 would be like, Jess got a gun. In fact, I think when I first met Michael, we had a conversation about firearms, and I wasn't a gun person, whatever people think of
whatever means.
Whatever that means. I have a history with firearms. My father was killed by a firearm, and so I've always had a very negative relationship with guns. And so my family is a family of hunters. My sister, I think, she was hunting when she was very, very pregnant. They built her a special deer stand and all of that, but I was never into that. And so I came to June of 2020, and I'm living on my own with my son, and I'm feeling very unprotected. And I'm at a weird place where the county line meets the city line. And so I was just thinking about what would happen if somebody tried to come into my house, or if I was in a situation where things got weird. I literally would have nothing to protect myself. And so Mike's been encouraging me to get more used to firearms in general, and that they're not this evil, scary thing. But I was I'd become more and more open to the idea of it simply because I'd become more informed about the kind of people that own guns and trained properly, and that there are like really responsible, lovely people who are trying to just only to protect themselves, their neighbors, and be a good citizen. And that's not how it was generally presented to me when I would hear different things about gun statistics and shootings and different things like that. So
you did a good job of educating yourself on firearms ownerships, statistics revolving around firearms. Was the first time that you put a gun in your hand and went to shoot? How emotionally charged was that for you, knowing that your father was killed by a firearm? Was that an emotional moment?
I think, I don't know if it was less scary or emotional because we had talked about it for a while before I actually went and fired one. And so he had been taking apart the weapon for me, leaving it on the table, letting me just see it, having it be unloaded, teaching me how to hold it, manipulate it
in a very innocuous state.
And we're talking like months of this to like help me just be okay with the idea of it. And so I think that because it wasn't ever like a pressure thing, I never felt like I had to. I came to a point where I trusted myself with it, and I wasn't intimidated by the object anymore. I understood that I controlled it, and that I didn't have to, be afraid of it anymore.
Yeah, and that's a really great learning technique from Mike in this case. And then the tremendous responsibility of picking up this gun when it's been put back together and is ready to fire. Probably hit you much harder than it would hit the standard person who doesn't have a traumatic history with firearms.
Yeah, and I think that we said this once when the first time I trained with Chaim, is that it not only doesn't have to be scary, it's actually quite fun to fire a weapon.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's probably a lot of influence from media and different thing too that sort of pushed this idea that it was a scary thing, that I needed to be afraid of, and that I needed to fear, and that I needed to keep far, far away from me. And that that didn't give me any tools to be able to protect myself. It actually neutered me.
Right.
Where I felt like, now what do I have to do? I have to use my hands, and that's all I have. So if somebody's bigger than me, what am I going to do?
Right. Yeah. It's certainly a powerful tool, put in the right hands. But like anything else that's powerful or dangerous, we spend time with it. We learn it, whether it be driving a car or whatever it is. So kudos to you for taking this step, dealing with your own personal harsh reality that revolved around firearms, and kudos to Mike there next to you for putting things in the right order to make you comfortable first.
And I have my concealed carry, but I don't carry yet. I don't feel proficient enough at it, but I'd like the option if I
to do
get
it
there.
With anything, I think there's an absorption rate, and depending on the topic, and especially as loaded as it was for her, there's a lifetime of an experience that she had to sort of have paradigm shifts on.
35 years.
And then also with her history with her father. And just anything in general, I think there's an absorption rate, and to try to go faster than that is just counterproductive and big time. And then really, early on, she's like, I don't know if I should be a person with a gun. I'm like, no, you are the person. We need to have more people like you, because you are responsible, you are thoughtful, you are really thinking everything through. And and like she said, and it even carries on to today, she has a concealed carry weapon, because it comes with other benefits. It comes with other benefits besides just being able to carry a firearm in this particular state. And she's still on the absorption rate. Yep. And when she's ready, she'll carry, and not before, not after. And it gets to be on her terms. And I think any kind of self-defense situation or personal protection situation, it does need to be on your terms. And even extrapolating that to an incident, may it occur, It would be something to do with being aware of your surroundings is way more important than how weaponized you are.
Yeah,
things
absolutely.
Like that.
Situational awareness should be the base of your security pyramid, right?
So you never have to use it.
Right. Yeah. If we're and drawing and utilizing your firearm is the tip top of it.
Like all of these other things have gone wrong.
Yeah.
That you have to use it.
Yeah, I think of it, if I'm in a physical confrontation, that means I made probably at least a dozen mistakes.
Absolutely. So as a first-time gun owner at 40 years old, and then the years prior to that were all, I'm going to put air quotes up, like living a very peaceful existence, right, as this mild-mannered, you're still mild-mannered, but a mild-mannered youth minister.
I don't know if that's how people would describe
Maybe
me.
this would be a good way to talk about our tattoos on our arm and all of it.
Would you offer any words of advice or encouragement to women who have considered gun ownership, considered taking their first course? Would you have anything to offer them that they could use?
I think it was really empowering for me, because I don't feel like I have to wait for somebody to come save me. I can take care of myself, damn it. And that's really what it came down to, is I didn't want to feel like I was powerless, and that it can be something that gives you confidence, not just because you can handle a weapon, but like to feel confident in situations where, the police aren't always going to get there when there's a hurricane right away, but that you don't have to have that in the back of your head just to have a little bit more confidence. And there's lots of gun ranges and different places you can train that are not so intimidating.
Sure.
And I think for different people that I know, that part of it is important, because like you feel like you don't know anything, you're a woman, and you're going to be treated a certain way, and that really hasn't been my experience.
That's great.
And maybe there are places out there like that, but certainly not at Tradecraft, and not in other places I've been here locally.
Yeah, and I think I think that's an important message for not just women, but for anyone who's been unsure about guns. They've not been around them, but they're considering it just due to maybe our current climate today. Like, maybe I should get a gun. I don't know. Hearing that they're a success story essentially like yours, that could be really really big.
And to take the power away from the object. I think that was an important flip for me in terms of what my childhood experience was, and then now is that I took away the power from the gun. It wasn't.
Yeah, and I use this phrase, and I stole this phrase. I didn't invent it or coin it in any way, but what Mike was able to do by disassembling the firearm and leaving it in its parts, and then like maybe one at a time, kind of repiecing it back together till it was whole again, was he demystified the firearm, demystified the dangers behind it, took away a lot of the unknowns for you, and that can be used in lots of different. That could be used in photography. It can be used in a street fight. In this case, it was with a firearm. Demystify it. Take away the smoke and mirrors and the stuff that you hear on the media, and get down to this is a tool. It's made up of 3 to 10 parts, and it won't do anything unless you command it to do so. I think that's an important thing to learn.
Yeah, and even if you're not using it for safety, like it really is just fun to go shoot steel.
Sure. Yeah.
It's really fun, especially the moving stuff. I love the moving stuff.
So what's on your calendar for Evoke Studios? Coming up. You guys have some pretty cool shit getting ready to go down.
Yeah, we've been going pretty hard at it this month, and and we're sort of. I guess we'll talk about what's next for Evoke Studios. We're going to take a small vacation because we've been hitting it pretty hard.
Yeah, I think from the moment they reopened May 1st last year, 2020, when they said non-essential businesses could restart, we just took every job we could because we didn't know, and then we've just done that until now, and we're tired.
So primarily, what's your primary source of income as photographers?
Or you mean like photo or video?
What are you shooting most? What are your bookings?
I haven't done that breakdowns.
Are you doing more weddings? Are you doing more
bar
mitzvahs?
I would say
do they take?
We do a little bit of everything, but I would say the bulk of the business is carried by wedding photography and videography, senior portraits, family portraits.
But recently, we've done a lot of work with small businesses, especially during this last year with COVID. They needed new commercials.
Mm-hmm.
They needed new website information. So we've done I think that's about half.
Cool. And so, and I was going to say, it was like the production side of things, the videography and production side of things really kind of blew up during the COVID thing, because we did work for some lawyers' offices, and they were essential businesses, so we could work for them. And Aloya Rowland, shout out to those guys. They were a fantastic law firm here locally in Fort Myers.
Who is that?
Aloya Rowland.
Cool.
And
you have them on retainer?
So.
We do.
So it's probably, we have them on retainer, we have about 50-50 now between photography and videography, and we find that they don't have to be separated that way, right? So just a couple of days ago, we shot long format videos for another law firm, and they also needed headshots. They also needed updated pictures for the website. So it really feels like that's the new thing, is like to be a photographer that doesn't do video is a trickier thing to do no matter what business you're in. You're almost expected to.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was going to ask you that, if I can ask you a personal question about photography, because you do video and photography as well, and you're quite good and very passionate about it, which is going to equate to going to be continue to be great at it and get better and better. Why did you get into photography, and when?
Yeah, good question. Well, I always love looking at amazing photography, whether it be ad-based or art-based. But I got my first DSLR camera used. I bought it from a guy, a Nikon. I can't remember. I bought it to. I owned the gym at the time, and I wanted to do a little bit better job at marketing our members. I wanted to take better pictures of our members, so I bought this camera. Put it in straight manual. Put it in straight auto, and shot. I was like, well, these aren't that great.
And why aren't they?
Right, I bought this camera. I should be crushing it. And then I started to learn about aperture priority, and then, okay, that came out pretty nice. And then I saw a little depth of field in a shot. Okay, that's even better. And I think that's how it happened. And then I bought my first new camera, was a kit, a body kit lens kind of thing from Costco. It was a Canon 70D, so a pretty decent, like mid-level crop frame sensor camera, and just started taking pictures of the kids around the house, the cat.
How many photographers Costco has launched?
Oh God, way? Probably a lot.
Yeah, for real.
And that, I think, is when I really started. I think the first time I got shutter speed up high enough to freeze like droplets of water in the air when the kids were playing, I was like, oh hell yeah, this is incredible. It
just does something. It makes you. It's a dopamine hit for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As soon as that, and you get it instantly back on the back side of the camera, like I did it. And then from there, I really fell in love with it. I bought a couple different lenses. I bought a tripod. I learned about long exposures. Got my first blurry flash headlight kind of thing, or car light, to drive by. That just kind of really lights you up. And then drones came next, and that now I love it.
Mm-hmm. You're really good at it.
Thanks.
Yeah, I remember coming back. You ran a night shooting class for white lights and infrared stuff here at the range, and you had your camera with you and grabbed it, and I had mine too, and we started doing some photos, and you were doing a shutter drag, and you're trying to do all kinds of stuff. I'm like, oh, Jess, he's actually a real photographer. He's not just
YouTube, man. Yeah. YouTube.
Yeah.
I know.
Ditto.
Yeah, Costco and YouTube.
Yeah, that's
Thank
right.
you.
We just learned something on YouTube today. We're trying to troubleshoot. But yeah, I love photography. I love the process. I love going out and trying to find a good shot, whether getting a reflection off of puddle somewhere.
Do you find it makes you more present even though you're not present in the same time?
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird...
Yeah. I look at colors differently. I look at scenery differently. And I mention it a lot to my wife while we're driving. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at that sky right there.
Allie's
look at those colors.
Yes, I know.
I know. At times I can hear her rolling her eyes. But yeah, I'm definitely more present. I'm much more aware of things. And I think I don't know, that's probably inspired a whole lot of other little series of photography, and now the videography thing, which I wasn't going to get into videography at all.
That's
it
what I
wasn't,
said too, and then you met Mike.
Yeah, it wasn't on my radar, but
you're like, I saw what I could do, right? And you're like, fuck, if you can do it, I can do it. Shit.
So now
I
crank out these fun little videos for the range, these drill of the week
Drill of the week
videos.
Drill of the week.
Yeah, and we have a ton of fun doing them, and my production is quick and dirty and easy, and
It's so good,
I literally do everything on my phone. The videos are shot on my phone with a DJI gimbal. The drone
Gimbal's magic, though. I mean, that's
the gimbal
what
makes
work.
it happen. The drone work is controlled by my phone, and then all the editing, including the audio work, is all done
What
on my
program
phone.
do you use on your phone?
It's
for that?
called LumaVision.
Oh,
no,
yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
LumaFusion. LumaFusion.
Okay.
It's like a borderline professional level app. I mean, I can do
gives you full manual control of all your settings on
absolutely
your phone,
100%. And then I don't use the native camera in my iPhone either. I use an app that really opens up the possibilities
okay.
in the camera.
All right.
And it's called
Do you have like
Lumix,
a 12 Pro or something, or what do you
I
have?
think that's a 10. I'm gonna
Nice.
get the 12 soon.
I have
iPhone
the
4.
12.
It's a so everything is done is done in the palm of my hand.
Do you edit on the
phone?
phone as well, or do you export it
Yeah.
out
It's
somewhere?
all edited on the
So
phone.
you pull the video that you recorded in real time from your phone,
Yep.
and the audio is typed in there, so that's baked together.
Yep.
And then you take your drone footage and you throw that in there.
Yeah, I
and you
airdrop
edit-
it. I airdrop it
airdrop.
straight
You're
straight
not
out of the
using a
drone.
mic or anything?
I use a mic for our audio for anything we're doing, like voiceover
Okay,
work.
you do.
Yep.
All
So I
right.
have a
Like a wireless
little
lapel
wireless
mic.
Rode
yeah.
Go, which
It's like what we have,
it
right?
sounds phenomenal. I really don't have to do anything to it in post. I could add some compression, or I could bring up, but
it's not for broadcast.
nobody can tell.
There's a jealousy that I have as jumping into a different kind of camera on different gimbal, and I have to take the same thing, capture good footage and audio, and then I put it into my computer, and then I download it and I have to make proxy files, blah, 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 blah. And then an hour later, then I can export and then maybe post it somewhere.
Yeah.
And you're out there just killing it with just a really high quality video and audio, and you're able to edit and spit it out in the same day.
Same day.
And
Most of the time, I have it ready the same day.
And you're mobile with it, too.
Yeah, we try to. We release the drill of the week on Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
and we shoot on either Tuesday or Wednesday, and it's ready to go.
And I mean, all of those tools are depending on what you're using it for.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Yeah, and
Mhm.
this all fits in a little teeny backpack. It's always in the back of my truck. It's ready to go anytime. So it's pretty cool.
And I would say on that sentiment is that anybody who's getting into photography and videography, it's really easy to lust over the most expensive gear, but sometimes the more expensive gear isn't exactly. So like if I gave you my camera and gimbal and said, here you go, and it's technically better, but not really. It actually is a step back for what you're trying to
What you're
create.
trying to do.
If we wanted to maybe do something a little bit higher production value or something, like a small movie or a film, then we might want to use our equipment, and then the iPhone would not come out as much. So reverse engineering is something that's saved me a lot of headaches, or something I enjoy to do, I should say. Reverse engineer everything. It's like, where do I want this to go, or what do I want to do with this, and then reverse engineer the steps it would take to get to that.
Now, Mike, you're a really good teacher. You're patient, and you have an interesting perspective on sharing your knowledge with people. You did it with Jessica very successfully with the firearm. You've done it with me a number of times, whether you've known it or not. Ever thought of going into teaching a course in photography?
A little bit. I've always loved people. I loved seeing somebody feel empowered. Like if I see that on their face, and then through my martial arts, having those schools, I learned what worked and didn't work for the most part. And I know what worked and didn't work for me as far as teaching. So I always enjoy hanging around people with the heart of a teacher. Everybody in this room is like that. You have the heart of a teacher. If you have something that you think would help me or Jess or anybody, that you will give it freely. And so to answer your question, sorry, I just went off a rant there. We did, but I really don't want to teach beginners. Mm-hmm. And then I'd rather only teach people kind of sort of where I'm at or just under where I'm at. And so I spent so many years teaching.
White belts.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like at some point, I guess the analogy is there. It's like, yeah, when I had been doing martial arts for so long, I hired other people to teach my white belt so I could focus on the advanced stuff.
Teaching brand new people is it should be in its own separate category. Because it can be very difficult.
Like what Hyman and Itmar do is like, that's amazing. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'd like to go train with people and learn from each other. And
do you think it's because like there's a certain you having the gusto or the impetus or the drive to go seek out that basic information yourself rather than just pay somebody to give you that basic information? Do you think that's where it lies? Because that's kind of how I feel.
Because we've run into that before. People reach out to us at the studio all the time. Can you do lessons? Can you teach me how to do off-camera flash? Can you teach me this? And we've met with them, and they don't even know how to run manual on their camera.
Right.
If you can't at least get there and have that desire and ambition, then we're not going to be able to take you to that next level. You have to have some grit and drive within, instead of just like, oh, here, I'll pour this information in your head and you're good to go.
And it can be frustrating for any teacher that shares information that's not ever utilized, and because time is important and the knowledge you have is important, whatever your craft is. And to her point, it's like when somebody says, hey, I want to be a photographer just like you. Really? Okay, where are you at in the process? Well, I just don't have anybody to teach me, and I don't have a camera. It's like, do you have YouTube and internet? Yes. And say, have you researched anything? And as soon as they start saying no, it's like, okay, I'm clear your words are not in alignment with your actions, and so I don't really spend a lot of time.
We aren't professionally trained.
Right.
We are self-taught.
YouTube is a powerful place.
Actually, self-taught isn't right. We pursued other avenues to get the information.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's an internal drive and want to gain this knowledge, and then there's a discipline that goes along with it to testing it out and trying it and screwing it up, and okay, that didn't work. It's a digital camera. It's not like it's film. You'd mess up, you can instantly put it in the trash, and you can make a setting adjustment and move forward. So yeah, I feel where you're coming from on that side of things for sure.
Yeah, and time. We don't have a lot of time for it.
Yep. So you're going on a vacation, a much deserved, much needed vacation.
Yeah.
Where are you going?
We are going to Joshua Tree.
Joshua Tree.
So it's a bucket list of mine for, well, I think ever since YouTube came out. I'm sorry, U2 came out with, when did that come out?
87, 88? 80s.
Oh,
gotta be.
Really that long ago?
U2 Joshua Tree. Yeah, it's gotta be.
Yeah.
87, 88.
Yeah, we're driving out.
Awesome.
Yeah, from Florida all the way to California. So it's going to be a short week there and a venture there and a short week back. Maybe a stop or two on the way for family.
You're bringing cameras.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I just got a new 14 millimeter prime that I'm excited to put to work out there.
Sweet. You got a new drone.
Yeah.
Because you crashed your last drone.
Yes.
I was going to say, are you going to add that? On a wedding day in the river.
Yeah.
Stuff that you get yourself into when you follow your passions and dreams and you don't put limits on yourself. You're like, how did I get here? Oh, that's right. I did this to myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I crashed was it the Mini? DJI Mini. It's the version 1, the first one that came out, and it served its purposes. And then the version 2 came out shortly thereafter, so we went ahead and quote-unquote upgraded to that one. And
rest in peace, Goose.
Yeah.
Goose was the name of the first drone, and this one we named Rooster.
Rooster, because we should have known if we named it Goose, it was
going
to go
down.
So for any of you kids that are younger than us, there's a movie called Top Gun. It wasn't in black and white, but came out a while ago, and one of the persons in it, spoiler alert, passed away, and his call sign was Goose.
Yeah.
And so we named the new one Rooster because we're assuming they're not going to kill Rooster off in the new
Certainly
movie.
hope not.
That would be ridiculous.
Come on. There will be
Who knows?
It'll be anarchy.
rioting in the streets.
So heading out to Joshua Tree, then you're coming back and you're going to hit it hard as hopefully things continue to open up here in the state of Florida.
We don't close down in Florida.
No, we're rocking, man.
Yeah.
Florida don't give a fuck.
We are rocking.
We have worked consistently the whole time.
Yeah. Awesome.
And granted, we were flexible. We were doing more weddings before that, but when we got the opportunity to work with more businesses, yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So this is your full-time gig. You guys don't have any other you don't have a side hustle, Mike? You're not street fighting for cash or anything?
Cage fighting.
There's some kids in here, so I can't.
I was talking to somebody about side hustles. What used to be called, I have a second job. And there's like, oh, yeah. There's kind of like a negative connotation around that 10 years ago. You have a second job.
And now it's like, I have like 3 side hustles.
Yeah, you have a side hustle, though. Man, that's just shit. That's where
you
it's
can
at.
actually eat now, right? No, I would say that most, like, I can divide my life up into multiple careers, and I would say there's always this crossover, this fade from one to the other, and versus going, you know what, I'm going to quit doing this thing A and do thing B. And there's, especially if you have a family, it can be a tricky thing, but if you can burn the candle at both ends for a little while, and then at some point you have to choose and make the full step. But there is a way.
That's what we both did.
Yeah, she faded out. We both faded out of our last careers. We had burned out. That's what we had in common. And we were able to fade into what was next, and it became a necessity. And sure, it's a scary thing, you know, when you want to do anything in life, especially like a photographer, where everybody has a phone or a camera in their pocket. It's like, what are you doing? And we had decided, hey, if you're in the top 10%, you're going to live. You're going to be able to do well. If you're in the bottom 90%, you're going to starve to death. And so everything we do, we built our business, how we carry ourselves, how we treat our customers. We're just very hypercritical of everything, that we're going to be in the top 10%, and we're going to be really kind on top of that, and then we should be okay. And so far, it's been working out really well. It allows us to meet people like you, and we get hired by you, and things. And before you know it, we're sitting here with gaff tape on a microphone, and
so elegant.
Yeah, whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Yeah. That conversation I was having about having a side hustle, it was like, about having multiple streams of income and finding yourself at a better point year after year. And I sort of, and I'll throw this at you guys, I think every so often, or every however long, and I won't define it because it's going to be individual, you have to sort of reinvent yourself a little bit. And I know that I've done that a couple times. I went from just law enforcement officer only, and law enforcement officer with an overlap of gym ownership, and gym ownership overlapped into, we haven't talked about it, but I had a short run where I had a drone company with a partner of mine who's a really...
Two Nice Guys or something?
Yeah, it was called Nice Guy Drones. Guys. He's a brilliant photographer, and so we had this little thing, and that sort of fed more passion. And now, here I am I'm out of law enforcement, I'm out of gym ownership, and I'm in the firearms industry and a range owner, and hopefully kicking off something of a successful podcast thing maybe.
And eventually part of Evoke Studio.
Yeah, we're trying to steal you. We're going to diversify. Actually, I think diversify is another way to say that, because I think if,
you're right.
Side hustles, it could be like under the umbrella of Evoke Studio, we had this photography thing go on, and then we said we're going to add video, and then we're going to add. So we're diversified or side hustling within the business. And I would argue that you're doing the same thing. You own a gun range. You have a podcast. You're an amazing father, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've had imposter syndrome. Like we've talked about. Everybody does to varying degrees. And I find it a very interesting thing. I don't think in the history of my time on social media I have really ever done a video where I've spoken. I hate my voice. Who doesn't?
It's so bizarre, and you have an amazing speaking voice.
Thank you.
And you're really good at this. So it's like
so these videos, this drill of the week, I think was the first time that I've ever allowed myself or committed myself to speaking in a post like that. Now, I've spoken publicly for years. I did a lot of public speaking when I was in law enforcement. I traveled throughout the Southeast region.
Putting it on video and putting it out there is different.
Right, because that's like we said earlier before we hit record, like that's in perpetuity. It's captured and it's always going to be there. So that has helped with that imposter syndrome a little bit. This actual project of sitting down with a recording desk and doing a podcast was kind of like therapy almost for me, because I'm trying to get by it. But in terms of the diversification of of our professional being and our personal being, this sort of is going to, I think, dovetail or fold into another piece for me, and that's going to be firearms instruction down the road. I've instructed so many things thus far, but I've never really gone that route. So that's something that's on my mind.
That's beautiful, though. Like I think it's weird how people will sometimes think of it as like a negative thing if you change careers.
Right.
And it's like we're given this one life, and for the love of God, if you only do one thing your whole life, what a waste. Like,
if it's something you love, that's one thing.
So
but
many different things that you can do.
Yeah,
and I think that we do our kids a disservice, certainly, when we tell them they have to pick a career and go to school for that, and that's what you're going to do. Like, no, just learn, do things, chase things, change your mind, learn something else new, and try that.
How many kids, I don't want to say kids, like how many young adults are in colleges right now and don't have shit idea of what it is they're going to do, and they're going to change majors 5 times, and then they're going to graduate with a degree in something that they're not going to use.
I think it's healthier to not know what you're going to do at 17 and 18. I think that's a more if you're going to be honest with yourself, and then there's people that do know,
or to at least just be open. I kind of like this, but I don't know.
Right. I think I'm open to that.
I think there's people that do know what they want to do at that age, but I think it's a very small percentage, and they may or may not be wrong.
And it shouldn't be seen as the norm.
Right. And then I think not knowing and going in with an open mind and exploring life and experiencing some life to find out what you do and you don't like. But going back to you, I see you as an artist. Actually, I'll say it this way. You know those things online when you the safety measures where you have to put in what your job is, where you were born, what car you drove,
Sure.
and safety checks to access a bank account, for example.
Right.
And I would constantly change, like every 5 to 8 years, I would change my career, and I'd be like, I'd have to change that part of it. What do you do for a living? And it's like, I can't remember when I made this account. I just changed it to artist because whatever it was, so if you want to break into my bank account, that's one of the safety words. Whatever I did in life, there was an artist, whether it's personal growth or trying to be better at relationship with my kids or my significant other, and martial arts itself, and taking photos and whatever the careers were. There was an art, even if it was construction. There was an artist in that.
Yeah.
And I see that in a lot of people, and then, like somebody like you and Jessica, and there's a drive to learn and to get better, and to empower those around them to do the same. And then there's a creative side to everything that we do, and there's a creative side to everything that you do that I see. And that makes sense that when I see your progression through your careers and the impact that you make on people, that there's a creative side to it.
Yeah, that's an interesting note. Something, yeah, you're 100% right. It's an interesting thing to have awareness around. And that's changed over the years, because when I was younger and I started law enforcement at 21, I wasn't artistically inclined except for music, playing the guitar, but I didn't really have any other passions, or
like so artistic except for music.
Except for music, but I wasn't pursuing anything else. It was just law enforcement. It was just like head down. Anything.
Don't you kind of have to be that way?
You have to. Yeah, there are phases into a law enforcement officer's career.
Yeah.
Like the first 5 years, you just buy everything black with Velcro on it.
Maybe a little gray.
Yeah, right.
Every police officer has the same shades.
Yeah. So there are definite phases, and that artistic side of me came out a little later. It wasn't.
You allowed space for it.
Yeah. No, you're right. I had to allow it, welcome it, and encourage it.
Right, because for some people, depending on what family you grew up in, it could really be discouraged.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I would push back on that. I would say artistic, you could say creative, being a creative person. So how creative did you have to be communicating with your other people, especially you were in the law enforcement for a while.
Right.
How creative did you have to be to
There's
change
not a lot
curriculum?
of room.
You went to the other coast, learned ground fighting, and you brought it back, and you were
it's
creative.
such an interesting concept, because there's not a lot of room for creativity in
But you
street
find
level
it.
law enforcement.
Right. You can only creatively pull somebody over so many ways, right?
It's pretty black and white.
Right. No pun.
So you have to sort of shift brains a little bit, and yeah. So
I would push back and say, I'll bet if you thought about it just for a moment, you would think about how creative you were within a field that had strict guidelines and stuff that you had to follow for safety, and that made sense. But then within that, I bet you still found room to be creative.
Oh, absolutely. Now I definitely I've actually referred to myself as a creative. That's kind of how I view myself now, and I kind of like it. I like it a lot, actually.
I like it a lot.
I like it a lot.
Do people know that reference?
I don't know what our listenership is like yet. What age they fall into, and I don't think we can capture that sort of
I'm used to my
data.
16-year-old looking at me like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, Mike, you've got girls. We talked about
2 daughters. Yeah, 17 and 18, and I just
we've got
love
16, 17,
Yeah,
18.
her son is 16. So
16,
it's my favorite thing I've ever done in this life. It's definitely something that
making kids.
Practice of making children. It helps if you're not by yourself, but yeah. No. So having my girls and what that meant to me as being a father is definitely the most favorite thing I've ever done. Yeah. And if that's all I did in this lifetime, it'd be enough. And fortunately, I don't have to live that way. But
yeah, that's cool.
And you've got the
4.
You got the 4.
Yeah, I
kiddos.
started kind of early. My son is the oldest. He's off in the Air Force right now. He's at Langley Air Force Base, doing his thing up there. And then got another one right behind him, my daughter Mia. She's up in New York at the moment as we speak.
What's she doing up there?
She's visiting. She's in the city. And then
Going to get that Rona?
here in the God, I hope not. Then actually here in the studio are my youngest 2, Emma and Riley. They're sitting here looking at us all. And
Are you guys done talking
I'm getting
yet?
getting the
Lunchtime,
watch tab.
Dad.
It's lunch. But this has been an awesome opportunity to bring Jess into the studio, get some mic time with her, introduce you to the hopefully our growing listenership.
After you get on me, you're like, all the listening.
Yeah,
They're all gone.
I've been putting together all week since our last podcast hit a nice list of guests.
Pretty epic.
And it's a killer list.
Do you have any off the top of your head?
Next week. Actually, he's in town now, but I think he's going to come in Monday morning. We're going to sit down and chat on Monday morning. Mike Fonseca, and I want to read this because I want to make sure I get it right. Mike Fonseca is actually my cousin. He's my wife's cousin.
So don't kiss him?
My cousin by marriage. And
it's by marriage. You can kiss him.
Yeah, I can kiss him. I do kiss him. Mike is a real life Jerry Maguire. So this is going to be a really fun time.
Show me the money.
Yeah, we're going to get into some of that with him. So he's a real life Jerry Maguire. He's the president at Excel Sports. He was with another management company, talent management company prior to that, CAA, for 11 years, and he was with IMG prior to that. He has worked with athletes from tennis, golf, baseball, football, MMA, not only in their on-field endeavors, but in their off-field endeavors as well. So Excel Sports is like one of the upper echelon sports management companies there are. So Derek Jeter, Peyton Manning, Tiger Woods, you name it. He's worked with some heavy hitters, George St. Pierre, Cain Velasquez from UFC.
So he's running the company now. He's not actively
Yeah,
working as an agent.
he's actually active as an agent.
Cool.
So he gets out to events, and he's front and center with some of these guys at whether it be
He must
Pro
be so
Bowls or whatever.
cool to be able to, like, I think if I would actually meet some of these people, I would just lose my shit.
Don't
Yeah.
lose
Or just be like-
your shit.
Well,
Like-
we're going to find that out.
He's got to be super cool.
We chat, but we don't chat about business stuff. We talk family stuff,
Yeah.
and we're at family reunions, and we're having beers.
It's gonna be
and
a
hanging
fun
out.
one.
But I want to get into it a little bit with him. I want to find out, like, hey man, how do you balance being a father and a husband on a Wednesday evening with Friday night you're out with big time baller on the town or wherever it is. So I want to talk about it. I also want to know about, like, are these multimillionaire professional sports athletes pansy asses?
Do they put their pants on one leg at a time?
Like, I want to know. I think a lot of people want to know.
Yeah.
So Mike will be here on Monday. We'll chat with him. We'll get that out next week. I have a few other great interviews lined up that I'm really excited about. One, Kawa from 2 Alpha Training Group. He's a really well-spoken guy, and I love the ideas that he puts out there in the world. Outside of firearms, I'm working on Tyler and Lindsay Mintz from Arcanum Edge. They are a CBD company in Colorado, and they do really amazing formulations of CBD, which I use.
That's the one you use for sleep, right?
Yeah, it puts me right to sleep. I love it.
That's awesome.
I love it. So I got a whole bunch of other people in the wings that I want to talk with. Jeff from Delta G, it's a supplement company. They make a product that basically brings you to ketosis within 30 minutes of ingesting it. And if anybody knows, the diet and fitness industry and about being in ketosis and some of the like performance benefits that come from it, these guys have distilled it down to literally like a shot, an ester, where you can drink this really down pure. And you can expect performance enhancements right away. I was reading
about it. It's fascinating to read how endurance athletes use it.
Yes.
And I thought I understood it before I read that, and I was like, whoa, this is so...
It's high-level stuff.
Yeah.
Like Harvard, it's like Harvard level patented.
Yeah.
So they have a tactical division, and that's where Jeff resides. And so I'm trying out some of the products for them right now.
It's fascinating. Think about the implications for what that could mean for people who are serving.
Absolutely.
And then also just, people who do the 100-mile races.
Yeah, it's one thing like to be an ultra marathoner or somebody who's doing an Ironman length, event. It's a completely different thing to be part of a Ranger battalion or in an austere environment and needing to be able to perform for extended periods of time.
Because it means life or death.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that'll be... hopefully we can land Jeff
That's cool.
for some time on the show. So we got a whole bunch, including maybe, fingers crossed, a buddy of mine who's quite literally a rock star. He'll be in town, so we'll sit down and chat with him. I won't share who he is just yet.
I was going to say, will we know who he is?
Yeah, we'll play some of his music.
Sort of a big deal?
I think he's a big deal.
And I got camera one that sort of ran out of space, but if we could, I just wanted to, whoever, we've been talking about where this podcast is going and what it's going to look like, and I think we've pretty much decided that anywhere you get your audio podcast, you'll be able to find this. The video portion of it will be up on the Gun channel on YouTube as well, whenever possible, and I think it's a PewJitsu on Instagram. So the Gun.
Switch that over.
So Pewjitsu on Instagram will probably be clips and stuff on it, video clips.
Pewjitsu, there'll be just like 1 minute clips, little trinkets and sound bites to draw you in.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to watch what's going on here in studio, whatever hijinks end up going down in here, that is going to be, over at YouTube at The Gun channel. And then we're working hard to get on all the podcast directories right now. Some of them take longer than others. Pandora takes 4 to 6 weeks to get your podcast up. Apparently, Spotify was instantaneous. It went up like instantly. So within the next couple weeks, anywhere that you pick up your podcast, whether it be Pandora or TuneIn or Spotify, Apple, even Google Podcasts, so you should be able to find us there. If nothing else, and you're following on Instagram, you can use the link tree through my personal Instagram, and it'll take you right to the PewJitsu podcast website, and you'll be able to listen straight through the website. We've got a player built in there. So really there's no excuse for not listening. So you better get on it.
Get on it, damn
it. So that's going to probably wrap us up. Hour 15. Time flies, man, here in the studio. Now I understand very quickly how these some of these other shows go 2 hours, 3 hours. Like, how can they talk for 3 hours? Easy. Mm-hmm. If I didn't have kids off on the side giving me the pointing at the watch, then we'd probably go on and on as well. So, Miss Jess, we're going to sign you out.
Later.
Mr. Peak, we're going to sign you out. And thank you guys so much for doing this and all the effort that went into setting up the mics and cameras and stuff today. We will iron this out so that it is literally, we're going to flick a switch and this whole studio will come right to life, and we'll make this a very easy and fun show to shoot. Until then, I'm going to give you this for our Viking royalty, and then I'm going to fade us out. So we'll check with you guys next Monday for the PewJitsu podcast. And until then.